It's not an easy thing. You have to be ready to take on the challenge and be ready to change your mindset, change the way you think about doing a lesson, and being ready to be innovative.
Students make connections in different ways at different grade levels. In immersion-based language programs, students develop language skills by using the language as a medium for learning other school subjects. They not only connect to other subject areas, they use their target language to access information.
Ilana?
Ay, no, pobre Joe, no tiene dedos.
¿Tiene dedos en los pies también?
Sí.
Wonderful examples of how immersion students make connections occur daily at Cambridge Elementary in the Alamo Heights School District. In one of Texas' few full immersion programs, these first graders are just beginning down the road toward proficiency in a second language. For them, the program goal of connections is vital. They are required to connect with all their other subject areas and to access information, everything they learn, in the target language. And all of this begins right from day one.
It's a little difficult like the first day when the kids come in because they know that they're going to be learning a foreign language, but I guess they think that they're going to hear a little bit of English. And when I walk in and the first thing in the morning they hear Buenos Dias and I introduce myself in Spanish and everything else is just completely in Spanish. The kids are in shock at first, but you know, we do a lot of fun game-type activities, and they adapt really well. I mean, by the end of the first hour, the first day of school, you know, they've pretty much settled into the classroom, and just like any other class.
For teacher Joyce Ramos, the challenge of communicating with these young people also begins on day one.
Curitas en el estómago. Tengo curitas por todos lados.
She must, by whatever means possible, connect the students with their other subject areas so they can access the information they need.
The teachers must use many strategies and techniques which help the students understand what they are trying to say to them. They have to use body language, they have to use pictures, they have to use kinesthetic clues, they have to use different types of visual clues. They become actors or actresses, they conduct plays, they do whatever they need to do in order for the children to understand what they're trying to say to them.
A lot of times it's funny because even with the first graders, they know certain terminology in Spanish that they don't know in English. And whenever they ask me questions in English, they stick in those Spanish words. And it's funny because sometimes they just start saying basic little sentences in Spanish, like they're beginning to think in Spanish. They're just not at that point yet, but I'd say by third grade, they definitely are.
Palomas.
These first graders can also make a connection to technology and access information in the same way their older brothers and sisters might on the internet. They're developing the skills of reading and listening and are already making the connections that will allow them to master their required curriculum in both their native and second languages.
The interesting discovery that we have made is that the immersion students are doing just as well in their English development as all of the other students on our campus who have received English-only instruction from the time they came here. In other words, what we're seeing is that to learn in a second language, to learn the curriculum in a second language, does not harm their native language, that being English. As a matter of fact, what I think we'll see in the long run is that it helps it.
In addition to acquiring information in the target language, teachers and students can use their second language to connect directly to other subject areas. Teacher Jane McCurdy encourages her Spanish 4 AP class at Lake Highlands High School in the Richardson District to make connections to literature and art through Spanish authors, playwrights, and artists.
I'm a lover of the fine arts, and so I think sometimes the kids love what the teacher loves. So I've had the kids act out little segments of Cervantes, like La Gitanilla, or a segment, one little chapter of Don Quixote, or The Miracle of Guadalupe. So they learn a little bit of culture through drama, through art.
In today's lesson, students are connecting with several subject areas, including art and history. They're being asked to imagine themselves as part of a famous painting and then to express their feelings about the experience.
They've had a little bit of history, of art history, social studies, customs of the 18th century versus customs of now, certainly culture, Spanish culture and culture during the time, and they are getting communication at the moment because they're going to do a dialogue. They're taking a walk within the painting, so they are going to express what they see and feel being inside the painting. So it's pretty inclusive. Teacher
McCurdy also takes advantage of her location, helping her students make connections with the real-world resources available around Dallas and Fort Worth.
The reason why we're doing this lesson today is because each of the kids is going to do a research project on an individual artist, and the reward after they take a massive, very difficult test that they're all aware of. The day after the difficult test, we're going to the Dallas Art Museum because there's a Mexican art exhibit there. So, yeah, and they have a lot of wonderful opportunities. We've gone to the Ballet Folklorico and do things outside of class as well.
Another educator who makes the extra effort to connect her students to other subjects and to relevant information is Irma Minjares of the Garland Independent School District.
Hola, alumnos. Hola, amigos. ¿Cómo están? Muy bien, gracias.
Irma is lead teacher for the 42-school elementary Spanish program in Garland. She teaches this class at Luna Elementary and then helps write curriculum for the 20 other elementary Spanish instructors in the district. In today's lesson, these third graders are learning about sentence structure, making a connection with terminology they use during language arts class, and thus reinforcing their knowledge of important TAS objectives.
¿Qué dice tu oración?
Yo escribo en la clase de inglés.
Muy bien. ¿Cuál es el sujeto?
Yo
¿Cuál es el predicado?
escribo en la clase de inglés.
Muy bien, Joshua. Muy bien. Lee tu oración.
Yo como en sándwich en almuerzo.
Excelente. ¿Cuál es el sujeto?
Yo
¿Cuál es el predicado?
como un sándwich en el almuerzo.
Muy bien. Excelente.
I considered the TEKS in the language other than English for communication and connections. I knew that the children had been having lessons in subject and predicate, and I knew that I could connect into the language arts for third grade. I also considered the third grade TEKS, and that is the simple subject and predicate. So today they were learning the two parts of a sentence so that it ties in with their TEKS for third grade in language arts and the TEKS and LOTE for foreign language. I was combining both TEKS.
The Garland District has made a major commitment to its Spanish language program, with first through fifth grade programs on all 42 elementary school campuses. Ms. Minjares sees to it that daily lesson plans for the entire district implement at least one of the 5 C's, in this instance, making the connection to a variety of subject areas in the target language.
We connect to math. We use activities where we play games with flashcards. We learn addition, multiplication, division, subtraction, all in Spanish. We connect to science. In science, we teach the weather, we teach seasons, the calendar. We also teach the geographical features. We connect to music, of course, which is one of their favorites. We connect to social studies, very much so.
Hasta luego. Adiós a todos aquí. Adiós a todos aquí. Adiós mis amigos. Adiós a todos aquí.
Finally, Marion Newland is one of the most experienced language teachers in the Fort Worth Independent School District. She's making the rounds in her Spanish 3, Spanish for Native Speakers classroom.
En el libro para tener una representación más clara.
Marion is asking her students to make connections to Spanish art history.
The history connection is relatively obvious. They have had to do some investigation on some periods in time in Europe that they don't normally study in world history because this is often passed over in their history classes. Also, they are making connections with art and learning about the major artists of the last 2 centuries.
These juniors and seniors are native speakers of Spanish and are considered excellent, if not proficient, speakers of the target language. The challenge for Teacher Newland is to connect these students with information that helps them explore their own rich heritage.
It's almost impossible to separate the connections because we always begin our activities with activating prior knowledge, using prior knowledge that they have. In doing investigations, if if they are not aware of what the background might be. I encourage them to make observations, careful observations, which I think you saw. They learn to do this in other classes. Now that we're in high school, and these are juniors and seniors, many of them, they've had experience doing this before, and now they're applying these same strategies to the foreign language class. This is a group of native and heritage speakers, and they are making their connections now with maybe parts of their own heritage that they're not aware of before.
As we've seen, making the connection to other subject areas and connecting to acquire information, all in the target language, are keys to the success of language learners and educators in Texas.
Well, in the connections especially, I feel that they're able to see how language is such a important part of anything we do in life. You know, and if I can see them see the similarities in one language and the other, you know, they feel like there's more consistency in what they're learning, more use for them to be able to apply that in their life.
We're following the texts that are written for foreign languages so that we address all 5 C's in all of our lessons. And we're also tying into the texts and the TOS objectives for language arts and social studies, and at the younger years even for math. So we know that our delivery system is delivering a better development of communication.
And as we've learned, the program goal of connections is only the beginning.
I think that a good lesson often has many C's involved because, just for example, today with the report card activity, they had to search for information, make the connection into how a report card is in what it looks like in Mexico compared to what they're used to seeing as a report card that they know. And then we talk about it later and we discuss it, we make comparisons, we apply the grammar and the vocab that they've learned, and they're able to expand upon it up to, you know, you can push them as far as they can go.
Thank you for watching Learning Languages Other Than English, a Texas Adventure, Communication and Connections. For more information about any of the topics discussed, or to contact any of the individuals who helped in the production of this video, please contact the Languages Other Than English Center for Educator Development at their website at www.cedal.org/LOTE-CED, or contact LOTE CED Director Lillian King Meidlinger at 1-800-476-6861, or contact the LOTE unit at the Texas Education Agency at 1-512-936-2444.